How dare you? You don't talk about my mother like that.
And now, the concierge of greatness. This is the Sci-Fi News Video Review with your hosts, Daniel and Jens.
Hey guys, and thank you for joining us for the German perspective on the latest episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. We got fresh beers, a lot of thirst. Hold on a second. And we are talking about Memento Mori, the 4th episode. My good and dear friend Hans over there is gonna start. Take it from the top, Hans.
Thank you, Franz, mein Freund. Memento Mori, be aware of mortality. The expression can be traced back to a ritual from ancient Rome, with which victorious generals were reminded of their vulnerability even at the moment of triumph. A fitting episode title on very different levels, because at the beginning of the 4th episode we see, for the first time in Star Trek, a kind of memorial day for deceased Starfleet officers and members. A ritual that may seem anachronistic to many, but absolutely credible in the context of a military organization. In the course of the episode, Memento Mori also gets current reference. On Finibus 3, the Enterprise crew discovers that a massacre has been committed in the colony by an unknown attacker. The inhabitants who could not escape were literally slaughtered. Since the backstory of Security Chief La'an Noonien-Singh is illuminated in this episode, it is unfortunately clear from the beginning that the attacker is the Gorn. A needless dialogue in the end of the pilot episode takes away some of the tensions, and the impact when La'an says, "It's the Gorn," is much smaller. Building up the Gorn as maybe the new big threat is not that stupid. Every Star Trek fan knows the nasty lizards, and yet almost nothing is known about the race. Despite the mini-reboot and the prequel setting, it is possible to tell the story of the Gorn without getting into big conflict with the canon. Maybe they even learned from the Klingon disaster of the first season of Star Trek Discovery. The episode is a wild mix of many elements that we have already seen frequently in Star Trek. The cat and mouse game inside the gas cloud reminded me a lot of the Deep Space Nine episode Starship Down. Here one plays cleverly with the elements that are also known from various submarine movies. With Hammer and Uhura, an apparently uneven duo has to rely on each other. It turns out that Hammer has other character traits besides sarcastic sayings and funny arrogance. Something you never experienced with the annoying Jet Reno from Star Trek Discovery, for example. Why Hammer couldn't just operate the terminal with his healthy hand and give instructions to Uhura from the off-screen, I didn't really understand. It seemed a bit contrived at times. Due to Una's injury, the relationship between her and the Doctor seems to gain further depth. After both had already formed a kind of bond in the last episode through the secret of Dr. Mbenga, the scene with the blood transfusion indicates that Mbenga wanted to give something back to the first officer. But before I talk about La'an, what is your opinion about her, Franz?
Thank you, Hans. Well, La'an Noonien-Singh gets her own narration for this week's episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and I have to say I like this concept quite a lot, especially for a first season of Star Trek show that seeks out new audiences and explores strange new streaming grounds. This is really a nice touch. I do wonder, though, what will happen when they do run out of main characters to do the log entries. Will the narrative switch back to Captain Pike, or will they start all over together? Well, we will see. Memento Mori also introduces us to a very unique and new character. The USS Enterprise gets to shine all episode long. It's such a delight to see the crew battle with its ship against the Gorn. The whole episode reminded me of the slow but intense battle against the Borg from Star Trek First Contact. The captain on the bridge, losing more and more control of his ship, fighting against a relentless and faceless enemy that seems to know no mercy. While all of this is certainly nothing new, Star Trek Strange New Worlds pulls out every trick in the book together and delivers a fantastic and fast-paced episode this week. As with First Contact, not the most philosophical approach, but most certainly a very, very entertaining one in my book. Also, the character development work is rather strong this week. The chief engineer Hammer moves his character away from the snarky one-liners towards a serious character with appropriate depth and motivation. And Uhura continues her believable journey towards a commitment to Starfleet while working with Hammer on the highly explosive air filter. And all her work culminates in the rescue of the Enterprise. And it's a very nice touch to have the entire crew work separate from each other towards a final goal here. While at first it seemed unimportant, the simple repair of the air filter system turns out to be the most important task of all during this crisis. Well, Hans, but before I move on to my favorite character, Captain Pike, what was your impression of La'an?
Although La'an's trauma is in the focus of Memento Mori, the writers leave enough room for the other characters to participate in resolving the many minor crises and the one major crisis. With a few exceptions, the dynamics and the dialogue on the bridge are good and appropriate. However, I'm struck negatively once again by helmswoman Erica Ortegas, who obviously needs a special announcement in every situation so that there is enough fun on the bridge. The flashbacks of La'an certainly help to reinforce the otherness and evilness of the Gorn. The whole scenario reminded me a bit of Space 2063, when the colonists on an alien planet were attacked and abducted by a vicious alien race. However, I found it a bit lackluster in terms of narrative that they resorted again the good old mind melding. The spiritual bullshit device that in the end again only serves as Deus Ex Machina effect. That a technologically superior race communicates via some slide projectors and everyone can read along seems rather stupid somehow. Just like the fact that La'an's brother obviously translated the entire Gorn dictionary and stored it up in her subconscious. I felt reminded of Star Trek Picard for 3 or 4 minutes. Let's stay briefly with the negative impressions. For me, this includes the J.J. Abrams memorial scene in which Mr. Blueshirt doesn't make it through the closed bulkhead in time. Although there were personal losses and quite unusual scenes, I found that in the context of the nasty Gorn and the episode title Memento Mori quite appropriate. On the other hand, I found the scene mentioned unnecessary. The good balance of drama and sober presentation that I praised so much in the last episode was lost a bit here. Again, Captain Pike's confidence in his ship reminded me of good old Star Trek. Giving a spaceship its own character is something we know all too well from old Star Trek shows and seems absolutely credible in Strange New Worlds, especially in connection with Captain Pike. Making the spaceship seem like part of the crew has always been one of the franchise's great strengths. I find it a pity that no stereotypical recognizable spaceships are given to alien races anymore. I'd already forgotten the design of the Gorn mothership after 6 minutes. Overall, Memento Mori is the most entertaining episode of the first season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds so far, but has the least substance and also has some narrative jitters. I therefore still rate the episode 3.5 out of 5 points. Also worthy of praise is the science bubble. I have no idea if these events with a black hole make any sense, but as a viewer, I had again the feeling that Spock, the old science dude, knows what he's talking about and that they will find out a solution for the problem in good old manner. That was my conclusion. Franz, tell me about your opinion about Captain Pike.
Captain Pike. Well, Anson Mount's Captain Pike delivers strong again this week. This is a captain we and I can get behind, who is strong in leadership but not unapproachable. Anson Mount's performance and play with Ethan Peck's Spock once again is, for me, the highlight of this episode. The episode wastes a bit of potential, though, with Noonien-Singh passed with the Gorn. You said it. The impact of the unknown enemy would have been much greater if the crew and the viewer would have discovered the true identity of the attackers together. Instead, this part got spoiled by the very obvious throwback to the pilot episode at the beginning of Memento Mori. I've criticized with the pilot that Strange New Worlds again would only tell but not show the tragic past of La'an. And with this episode, they show us that the writers are capable of actually telling and showing. So it begs the question, why even throw that bit of cruel past into the pilot episode in the first place? It would have been so much better if La'an would only tell this tragic side of her past during this very crisis. It would have made a much bigger impact, in my opinion, on her character and on this very episode. Well, the only one sideline for this episode is number 1, but that's not really tragic, since so much is happening after all in this episode without her presence. Plus, it gives the good doctor another chance to shine. Bob's performance is on par with the rest of the crew, I have to say, and while every character gets his well-placed moment in this week's episode, as you have stated, one persona simply does not fit into this very well-assembled group. It's Lieutenant Erica Ortegas, who seems to have only one job, to be annoying with completely inappropriate behavior and dialogue. It's baffling to see her ramble on about stupid nonsense with odd remarks and phrases, while each and every other character is being portrayed as deep and mature in comparison. Is this the new Tilly? I sincerely hope not. From a visual point of view, the good performance continues in terms of visual effects. The badly damaged Enterprise at the end, the fast-paced sequences within the brown dwarf planet, the rather dramatic burning hangar set. Visually, this show really sets a new standard, for a Star Trek show at least. And apart from the abominations in piano black, I really like the set design a lot. And I have to ask you a question out there. Do you know the first rule of space travel? It's love. You can learn all the math in the universe, but you take a boat in the air that you don't love, she will shake you off, just as sure as the turning of the worlds. Love keeps her in the air when she should fall. Love tells you she's hurting before she keens. Love makes her home. And while Captain Pike is certainly no Malcolm Reynolds from Serenity, this is quite the fitting quote and quite fitting for the role and performance of the captain and her Enterprise in this week's episode. Really good job, everyone. Now let's simply just get rid of Ortegas or her stupid dialogue and continue to explore. And I rate this episode, again, a 4 out of 5 from the German perspective. Well, back to the Gorn faces. Hold on a second. I have to drink a beer.
Thanks for your conclusion, Franz, and thanks for your little essay about love. Yeah, love and spaceships.
You are quite welcome. It's such an amazing movie. Serenity from Joss Whedon, Nathan Fillion as Captain Malcolm Reynolds. I watch it at least once or twice a year. It's a year. Okay. Yes, of course. It's quite my favorite movie, I have to say. Mm-hmm. Well, and I hope we are quite your favorite YouTube channel out there.
Of course.
And you have subscribed already. And if you haven't subscribed, be aware the ghoul is out to get you. Leave a subscription right now for our YouTube channel, or we will send the ghoul after you. Well, we're looking forward to all of your comments. And please let us know where we can improve and where we are great already. And we are going to see you next week for the German perspective of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Take care, guys.
Thank you, guys.